StockPulse newsroom, talking Max Resource today. Max Resource trades as MAX in the Toronto Venture Exchange, MXROF on the OTC Pinks in the States. They report a new high-grade copper-silver discovery at their URU or Uru project there in Colombia. Got with me now the CEO, Brett Matich, to run through the highlights of this discovery. Brett, appreciate the time here. Always nice having a new copper-silver discovery there. So working down in Colombia, kind of an elite crowd. So I guess let's get into that. Maybe before that, maybe talk about the company, how you put it together, and then take us into current day here.
Yeah. Yeah, we're looking at Colombia for a while. It's just they've had restricted exploration. So where we were was a prolific coal, oil and gas belt, and there was bits of copper everywhere. So it seemed like where to start. So, and that's where we built up. We started in 2020. We had a lot of success in 2021 with the discoveries, including Uru, and also the market were waiting for us to get concessions approved, and they wanted to see a pathway to drilling. So, and then we come back to where we are now, the announcement. So what we tend to do is we tend to go for the low hanging fruit. So you go where all the mineralization is exposed. This area is extremely unusual because it's sort of been untouched for tens of years. So normally you're not touching and feeling the mineralization. So because of the lack of exploration, we're tracing it over 90 kilometres, but it sort of takes a while to find the right places. I mean, 90 kilometres doesn't sound a lot but when you're out in mountains and terrain and there's 90 kilometres of strike and it whips up to 20 kilometres, you sort of got to pick, where your priorities are. And this discovery, it was something that we really only had a bit of a look at. We heard about it back with the local groups. They can't remember it being mined, and it sort of goes back to the Spanish. So we believe where they've been mining here is back in the Spanish, and they're actually extracting the high-grade silver. So it's our first look at it. I mean, a lot of what we do is you got to look at size. You go the larger the potential of any type of potential deposit, the larger it is, the earlier you'll gain interest. So with where we are now, we still haven't put a drill hole in it, but there's a massive interest because we're demonstrating this is a massive system. And then simply from an exploration side, what you tend to do, it's sort of like rocket science in a way, is you find your richest area, you need to put a ruler on it and what the potential size is. And that's what we released today. So we're releasing it from the river base. It goes up vertically 190 meters. Then it goes up another 120 meters. And we traced it from different widths between 10 and 15 meters. And then it goes along strike to 300 meters. What's 10 and 15 meters mean? In this type of mineralization, if you're getting 5 meters, that's substantial. So we're getting widths a lot wider than the 5 meters. And then what we got to do next is before we drill, we got to shore up and sort of anticipate or sort of work out where that mineralization is from the base up to the 200 odd meters. Because when you're drilling, it's not cheap to drill. So you want to delineate your target as much as you can. So our next steps is we will actually get into those attics. So you can get in the attics, and because they're in the mountain, it can help you work out the orientation. So you go in the attics, you work out the orientation, you do your atom mapping, again, to sort of interpret what you're doing. And one of the best tools you use is IP. Basically, IP, because copper is a conductor, the IP is just simply measuring the charge of the conductor. We've got a big advantage because it's so high grade, we're going to get a really good response. So that's the next stage. The other thing you do with this geophysics, with the IP, you also go along areas that have got soil cover. So when the outcrops in the soil cover, so you trace it. It takes a couple of months of work, and what we tend to do is we'll trace as much of that IP before we drill. Then you go to the next stage of drilling. So when you drill, it's also confirming how accurate your geophysics or your IP is. So it's not just delineating the mineralization. It's also giving you like a control. So then you can go along strike in these other areas, and you can sort of, you can anticipate from the response what the mineralization is going to be. But what we're looking at is we're demonstrating the prospectivity of this whole basin. We're not putting a resource together. We're demonstrating prospectivity of the whole basin. And we could go back to what I was talking about. The bigger the prize, the earlier you get that interest. So that's our plan. There's something to think about junior companies. Junior companies, we've only got so much of a budget, right? Because if you keep raising money at one point and you're not getting your level of share price going up, you'll eventually water down your shareholders. So it's a sort of a tipping point. So what you've got to do is you've got to have your strategy. What are you going to do with that money? And for us, rather than drill these resources, we're spreading out with our drilling that demonstrate the size. So there's a lot of what we do is it's not by accident. We looked at this particular area. Things have changed a lot in this area. So there was two parts to this area. One part is in this area previously it wasn't safe to do exploration, and that's changed over the last 10 years. And the other part was, or the other one part of it was, you can only get small bits of land. So we had a strategy over the last 2 years by expanding the land as well as doing the exploration. So, and then from the very, very start, it was the same strategy we do now. Demonstrate the prospectivity of this basin.
Let's get into making money together here, Brett. That's what shareholders are doing with you here. So you painted a picture of, I guess, you could go out and sort of prove up what you have, but you're taking the strategy of, the Walt Disney approach, I guess, of buying everything around it and then going for the big score. I think shareholders and prospective investors might like that idea to hit the big one. That's why they're here. So I guess talk about how this kind of unfolds with the approach you're taking of going for the land versus just going in there and trying to prove it up with, again, expensive drill holes.
Yeah. So you just think of it like a jigsaw, right? So we got this land that we're expanding, and then what we're doing is we're putting in different parts of the jigsaw to demonstrate advancing the prospectivity of the area, and that's really the way to do it. And then part of that jigsaw is you advance one particular area, which is this Uru. If you advance that, and that is, and this looks spectacular, it's immediately going to add value to every other prospect you got around it. So that's basically what we're doing, is the different parts of the jigsaw. The experience that I've got, I've put mines into production, into development from early stage. One of the ones I did was in Australia. It's called Aztec Resources, and in a period of 5 years, we went from a little $1 million shell to be taken over for $300 million. And to do that, you got to work out those steps. You get third-party opinions. We've had a number of experts in the field look at what we're doing, because it's always good to, if you're too close to something, you don't necessarily get it right. So we do that. Our industry is a industry that everybody helps each other, because if one junior is successful, it actually attracts attention to all the juniors. So it's an industry that there is, I suppose, competition in raising funds, but it's of the best interest of the whole sector every time you get a junior getting successful. So there's different parts of it. I mean, it is a rewarding industry because you're creating value, right? Which is a really rewarding thing. It's just a matter of, you got to play your percentages. Sometimes you go to a place and you just, you come to the stage where sometimes you got to go somewhere else. I mean, we're doing all the high risks. The major companies know that we do that, and they're happy for us to add value first. We're nimble. We don't have to go through all the bureaucrat system. I mean, from my side, I direct strategy, exploration, all the way down to the field, financing. So I'm doing all the way down to the field. I want to see what's coming next. I want to see that the strategy is working. You have your good days and average days. It's just what we're in. There's always something going wrong. It's just the game we're in. So it's a matter of, but it's also a matter of, we know that, it's high risk exploration, but you play the percentages. You're not going to win them all. It's a matter of, we look at this, for example, and we don't have to win it all. I mean, you're talking a deposit, quite a substantial deposit of where we are. You might be looking at, say, if it's 1 kilometre by 1 kilometre, that can put a massive deposit in. So then we're exploring 90 to 100 kilometres by up to 10. We don't need to. We only need one, right? We think there's going to be a number of them, but we only need one, and that's the sort of steps you take.
Keep our eye on the wire. Appreciate that update. Again, that's CEO Brett Matich, Max Resource Corp, MAX, Toronto Venture Exchange, MXROF, OTC Pinks in the States. And again, appreciate you taking the time, Brett, and we'll look forward to checking back in when you have some more news to report.
Pleasure talking to you.